So how do you know when what you're writing is a comparison or is it a simile? Stick around. Today we're going to look at similes, metaphors, and literal comparisons. So what makes a simile a simile? How do we know we're writing a simile and we're not just writing a literal comparison? Well, a comparison looks for qualities that are the same between two very similar things. On the other hand, a simile compares qualities of two very dissimilar things. A simile is a type of figurative language, whereas a comparison is a type of literal language. A comparison uses literal language to relate facts about how two things are similar or alike in some way. A simile is accomplished by using figurative language to create an image or an association or another effect in the mind of the reader or the listener that goes beyond those literal words on the page. Why does it matter? Well, unless you have to identify what you're doing, whether you're making a comparison or a simile, probably doesn't matter. But it does matter if you are trying to analyze the writing of someone else and tell whether or not that author is using a simile or a comparison, such as if you're writing rhetorical analysis in college or writing the SAT essay. So let's look at an example. Theo is as tall as an NBA player. Well, you can see from that little icon of Theo in the middle of the page and the basketball player up in the left-hand corner that Theo and the basketball player are both people. They're just comparing facts about those people. They're both very tall. Whereas a simile would mean that you were writing Theo is as tall as a 10-story building. And you can see from looking at the little icons of Theo and the building, they're not similar things at all. One's a human and the other one is a building. Today I'd like to share with you an excerpt from one of my students' practice SAT essays. In trying to identify the techniques and persuasive devices that an author uses as in a source article for the SAT essay, she called an actual comparison a simile. Now, this particular practice essay was written with response to practice essay number 5, the article by Eric Kleinenberg about air conditioning. Here's what the student wrote. Kleinenberg shows the audience the senseless behaviors of AC users in our country while he states that legal modifications should be made. No doubt a law like that would raise even more objections than Mayor Bloomberg's attempt to ban big sodas. This writer introduces this simile to compare this problematic situation to a familiar situation to readers. Well, she's right in that there's a comparison happening there, but it's not a simile. Why is it not a simile? Because what's being compared is basically two types of proposed legislation. One about air conditioning use and the other about consumption of soda pop. Okay, this is actually not a simile because what's being compared are two like items with literal language. It basically would be considered evidence or use of facts by Kleinenberg, not use of figurative language like a simile. Now, how could this student fix this? I've underlined just the slight change that we made to her practice essay that would help overcome this misnaming of a comparison, a simile. she could write, the writer introduces this powerful comparison to relate this problematic situation to a familiar situation to the readers. So instead of saying it's a simile, it's okay to say it's a powerful comparison. It just now is going to be treated like factual evidence that the author uses, not a figurative language technique. So let's take a look at a couple more similes just to refresh our minds on what a simile is and what makes it a simile and not a comparison. The first one says, this house is as clean as a whistle. Well, a house and a whistle, those are two very different things. It would be a comparison if it said this house is as clean as a hospital operating room, because those are both physical spaces. But by comparing the house to a whistle, which somebody way back in the past decided whistles are clean, but this makes it a simile because whistles and houses are very different. Another example would be to say that they fought like cats and dogs. They, the humans, and cats and dogs, animals, are different things, though they do share that one quality. The writer uses this simile to pull up that image of fighting cats and dogs in the reader's mind so that they can make a comparison. It would be a simple literal comparison if it just said they fought like professional boxers. Boxers and they, in the sentence, are both humans, so they share a quality alike, but it's a factual representation using literal language, not a simile. So how are similes and metaphors alike? Let's just take it one step further. A simile uses the word like or as to compare two things that share a quality, and these two things should be very different from each other, such as she is as brave as a lion. She and the lion, human and animal, two very different things, but they share a quality. He was strong like an ox. He is a human, an ox is an animal. They share the quality of being strong, but the writer wants to use this simile to put the image of an ox in the reader's mind as they read it, so they can make this association. Here's one more simile. She will be as innocent as an angel. Angels, humans, not the same thing. They're two different things. So this is a simile comparison. Now for a metaphor, all you do is drop that like or as and make a direct comparison between two very different things. So if we said she is a brave lion, that turns our former simile into a metaphor. She's not like a lion now, she is a lion, and that's a metaphor. If we say he was a strong ox, that's a metaphor. No like or as when we use the simile. She will be an angel. She will be an angel is a direct comparison to very dissimilar things, but there's no like or as, so that makes it a metaphor. Oh, that was just a quick introduction to metaphor, but it was worth talking about because so often you can turn a simile into metaphor very easily by getting rid of the words like or as. Let's take a little quiz though and see if you're ready now to tell the difference between a simile, which is figurative language, and a comparison, which is literal. So here's our first quiz item. He is as funny as a barrel of monkeys. What do you think, simile or comparison? Well, you can see there in the picture that a barrel of monkeys and this boy, he, are very different things, though they share this quality of being funny. So this is a simile. Here's another quiz item. Her cooking made the house smell like a fine restaurant. Well, it does have that word like in there. Is it a simile or a comparison? Well, her cooking made the house smell like a fine restaurant. A house and a restaurant are both buildings. So this is just a comparison. It's a factual comparison between what the house smells like and what a fine restaurant smells like. I hope this quick tutorial about the differences between similes and comparisons was helpful to you. Remember, a comparison is using literal language and facts about two fairly similar things that share a similar quality. A simile, or a metaphor, uses figurative language to compare a similar quality between two things that are very different.